Okay. So start just feeling your weight on your feet again this morning. Feet pointed straight ahead. Just notice, is there any tension around your hips or around your shoulders? And if you just take your hips forward a little bit, do you have a different pull somewhere in the front of your hips on one side than the other? So I'm just literally allowing the hips to change position. And we're just seeing if there's a quadricep or a hip flexor that might be holding you tight. And then know that we're best lined up when our ankles and our knees and our hips and our shoulders, all of our load joints are lined up one right over the other. So start there and just lift your feet up off the floor to start. So find that anterior tibialis. If you have a wall that you can go back to and lift your feet up, use that. Find the muscles in the front of your shin. And lift and lower. And then come back up. And again, if you still have a wall, now take your heels to the wall and line up your load joints. Heels, back, hips, rib cage, and shoulders. And then take it into a shoulder shrug. So keep some tension all the way through your body, just a little bit. And then slide your shoulders up to your ears and press them down. Slide them up, press them down. 10 times. And release. Again, squeeze your shoulders just a bit, slide them up, and press them down. And release. One last time, squeeze the shoulder blades just slightly together, and then slide so the whole shoulder girdle slides up toward your ears, and then presses down and finds your middle back, your mid-trap area, all the way up, all the way down. And then turn your feet so that they're facing out. Find your butt muscles. So we're turning them out so that we give your glutes an advantage by shortening them just a little bit so that they can squeeze and release. And just notice, do both sides activate evenly? We know that the glutes and abdominals and hip flexors all tie into each other and they oppose each other. There's some opposite muscles there. When the hip flexors or quads get overly stiff or tight or short, then it inhibits some gluteal function. Low back pain can also have a pathway to inhibit gluteal function. And maybe you have a funky shaped hip that also changes the position and makes it so the glutes just don't activate as well. So find your glutes, squeeze, release. back to straight. And squeeze and release. You could put a micro bend in your knees. Squeeze your butt, release. Squeeze, release. Make sure it's working. Then go back to your shoulders and give me a shoulder squeeze. Squeeze and release. Keeping the rib cage stable, articulating your shoulders around your ribs. Awesome. And then some nerve flossing just with your head and neck. So letting your head come down as far as it will go, and then bring it back up over your shoulders. Chin tuck, head slide. We're pulling on all the nerves that go down all the way to your hands and to your feet. All the way down. Come back up. Again. Down. And up. Now if you felt tingles or changes in your leg because of this, or movement in your arm because of that motion, that would be something to note. 2 more. Head down, up, one more time, chin tuck, head slide. Awesome. And then take your head side to side, ear toward a shoulder. You can reach your arm out and then bring the arm in so that the nerves that go down the arm are lengthening at the head, and then back up and over and up and over and up. Other side, arm out, head toward your shoulder. And release. Take 1 step forward, shoulder rolls up and back and around. And forward. Just feel, do both sides of your shoulders move around your ribs the same? Does it feel even? How about where the connection to the shoulder and arm bone is? Good. Now let's take it from the shoulder down the arm bone. So we're going to control that articulation, external rotation. Step forward if you're at the wall so that you can take your arms back as far as possible, and then up and around. Again, turn the hands, so external rotation at the humerus, arms back behind you as far as they'll go. Strong arms, strong elbows with some tone through the rest of your body, so there's not a lot of movement anywhere else. All the way around. Couple more of those. Take your arms back, rotating, then back behind you, and up and around. External rotation at the arm bone, arms behind you, up and around. External rotation at the arm bone, arms behind you, up and around. Excellent. Arm circles. Actually, before we do arm circles, let's get the elbow and wrist in alignment. Hands up like this, then Rotate at the elbow, so forearm flips over and then turns up. Find the muscles that are in the crook of your elbow that do that rotation. Then keeping your hands that way, big wrist circles, elbows stay bent. Articulate at the wrist joint. And then go the other way. One more time. And then fingers spread super wide and squeeze. Spread, squeeze. Okay, now into arm circles. Fold the fingers into the golfer's grip, arms by your sides, arms out to the side, circle forward, 40 circles. And backwards. Okay, this one's a different one. Put your hands right on your ribs and see if you can slide your rib cage from one side to the other, keeping everything else pretty still. And you find the muscles in your trunk that help to do that movement. So there can be a little lift on the side to open the rib cage. And if you have a shear force instability in your back and this is painful, if there's any kind of pain, don't do it. Otherwise, see if you can find some mobilization in the rib cage. Maybe forward and back. And then come down onto your hands and knees, cats and dogs. Spread your fingers wide, really get in contact with the floor. Round and arch. Then come to kneeling. So kneeling is a position where, because the legs are under, we're putting more pull on the quadriceps and the hip flexors. So shoulder rolls in this position here, up and back and around. See if you can make it even. Go ahead and articulate your spine all the way down for the first set. Let it just move all the way down into the low back. Now, if your quads are really tight and it's pulling on your low back, people actually can have pain because their psoas or their quads are too tight. Okay, now I want you to just push your hips forward and test again, just like we did in the beginning. You push your hips forward. Do you have different sensation between the right and left, more tightness, or Is that just difficult just to push it forward at all? Or do you notice that something on the front of your legs holds a lot of tension? Or is there a little discomfort? Like if you take your tailbone down, just feel, how do we create some length in the quads so that your pelvis stays in a good position? Hold your fingers into your palms, hands at your temples. Sometimes as we let the thoracic back go, we get a release all the way through the body. Last one. Awesome. Okay, come down onto your back with your block and your strap close. I could have done that better. Let's practice better spine hygiene as we come down. So as you come down, take your arm out to the side and roll onto your back. That would be better than allowing that big flexion to happen as the way I rolled down to begin with. So keeping a slight curve in your low back, feet on the floor, let one leg go out straight, pull your toes back, and we'll go into the deep muscles in that hip, into a femur rotation, out and in, finding the muscles deep in that hip while the pelvis is being held by the floor, the thoracic back is being held by the floor, out and in. And switch. Bending one knee, taking the opposite leg out straight, pulling your toes back, and taking that through external rotation and internal rotation at that hip. Both legs straight, hands underneath your back, pull your toes back, and then out and in again. Bend both knees. Into an active frog. So knees bent, we're going to change the relationship in those hips a little bit, but we're still going to take it into a rotation, out and in. There's a little bit of a lumbopelvic rhythm here. As you drop the legs out with this much bend at the hip, there's going to be a slight movement at the level of the pelvis, a slight opening and closing, just little. Sometimes if you have a hip socket that's a little out of position or tightness somewhere around the hips or pelvis, the leg bone will boss the low back around in a rotation, and it could be what's causing low back pain. It could be what's causing the hip to not function correctly in your walk. So just bringing balance again to the two sides. Okay, little stabilization here. Hands underneath your back if you can handle that internal rotation. And then hover your right leg off the floor. Hold it there, elbows up off the floor, head just barely off the floor. Hold it up and breathe. 10-second hold. Those deep muscles of the hip flexor into that psoas, into the shoulder, all working. And release and switch. Second side, elbows up, body up. You should feel tightness in your core, tightness in that hip flexor, up through the shoulders and the head and neck. Release. Again, hold it out there, lift. 10 seconds, breathe. Pull it in, switch. Lift, hold. And release. Good. Pelvic tilts as long as there's no pain. Rocking it back and forward. Just noticing, do both sides of your pelvis. If you put your hands on your ASIS bones, I do both sides of your pelvis. Okay, thank you. Awesome. From here, let's go into some rotations. Arms out to the side, cross the right ankle over the left knee, all the way down to the floor. And gently press that knee away from you, opening up that hip. Breathe and hold. The minute hold. We want this hip to move into the right position in coordination with the whole lumbar spine. This left side of the lumbar spine is really working right now as that right side moves into some extension. Inhale, come on up. Switch. All the way over. Turn. Press that knee away from you. Hold and breathe. Come on up. Cats and dogs. Rounded arch. noticing that the movement of your head is also a bit of a nerve loss. So pulling on the nerves that go into your legs, in the front and the back of your legs. Making sure that there's no traps. All right, then find some stability. You can stay on your arms, or if your wrists would like a break, you can keep your hands down and then into a donkey kick. Bring your right leg up, lift and lower. Bring your knee right down to the floor and then lift it up to the sky. Keep stability in your trunk while you do that. So as you go up, I don't want a really big arch in the low back. So if you imagine that someone's trying to stick their fingers into the space between your ribs and your hip bones, and you are to push them out so that you widen that base, turn on some of those muscles so that you increase intra-abdominal pressure and stability, and then allow the hip to do that movement down and up 10 times. And then switch.
Did you say so? Did you
Say hi.
Good morning, McCoy.
Just mostly forward. Okay. Thanks. All right, we did both sides, right? 10 times. Let's do one more leg one here. Take that left leg out to the side, way out there. And then that's gonna pull on this adductor. Point you keep it out there, and then just keeping the curve in your low back. Take your hips back as far as they'll go and forward. So it's just a little bit of a rock. It's gonna open the pelvic floor, keep some spinal stability, open up that adductor, and then take it back up 10 times. Good, and then reach one arm out so you're in a like 3-point horse stance, but it's uneven. Hold that arm out there and breathe. Just work on that stability. Find the muscles in your back that help hold that. You can even take it into a cactus arm if it feels better, to be able to really find some muscles in your shoulder, between your shoulder and your spine. Hold one more deep breath here. And release. Second side. Take that leg way out there. And then keep a little bit of an arch in your back. Rock backward and forward. And then hold the arm up there. Just feel all the muscles, everything having to adjust to that position. Breathe. Big, full, deep breaths. And release. Bring that leg in. Back to lengthening the hip flexors. If you have 2 blocks, grab them. What I want you to do is keep your spine in good alignment and just reach back, press your hips forward, hold it. And if you can, see if you can press back up. Reaching back. Either hold the stretch, or if you're feeling advanced, press back up. You could also go down and up here, pressing your hips forward. Come back down again. Come out of it. Be down onto your back. Feet on the floor, knees bent. I'm going to do this better again. Spine hygiene, turn to your side. Roll onto your back. And then place your block between your knees. Keep some pressure in on that block. Go ahead and lift. Roll your shoulders underneath you. You can even use your interlaced hands to roll your arm bones back more and then release them. And then let your butt hit before your back and go into active bridges, all the way up, all the way down. Gentle press of your head back into the floor, lift and lower. Five more. And release your block. Grab your strap if you've got one. We're going to do the same thing. This time I want to press out. So we're going to use the lateral hip to create a little bit more extension. Maybe we get that quad to release a little more. So first, just press and release out against the strap 10 times. Find the muscles in the deep part of your butt that help do that. Glutes and tensor fascia lata. Pull, release. Then keep pressure out against the strap, lift and lower. Find your glutes again, 15. Okay, can you work on yourself a little bit? Just a little bit. Thanks. Then in 15 minutes, I'll come up and make breakfast. Okay, when I get up there. Is Daddy awake? I did. Okay. Go ahead and take that off. Get around 1 foot and pull it up into a quad stretch. Now, this would be, if you had active sciatic pain, this would probably not be okay for you. So hopefully nobody does in this class, because we've been working so well on flossing our nerves and stabilizing our body and keeping our joints in alignment, but if you did, just notice. As long as it feels okay, put the strap at the ball of your foot and first just pull on the ankle so that you get a calf stretch and the lower leg lines up into the knee and into the shoulder. Just hold that, shoulders gently down and back. And then pull it into a hamstring stretch. And ideally we want at least vertical with that knee completely straight. So thigh tight. And this right now, by putting the strap here, we make this a closed kinetic chain exercise. So we've got the foot and ankle, that little dorsiflexion at the ankle, locking the ankle, driving the alignment into the knee and into the hip. And hopefully that hip just moving back into the hip socket where it can move more freely, spin more correctly. Switch legs, calf stretch first, right at your toes, and keeping that leg kind of low, pulling it down. Maybe 15 more minutes. 15 more minutes. Take that leg up, slide the strap back, push the knee all the way straight. And release. Onto your hands and knees. Up under your elbows into a plank. Hold it up there. Feel the front of your legs help activate that. And then if you're feeling strong today, roll up onto one side and hold. Keep your body stiff like a board as you roll back to your plank and then roll up onto the other side. Letting that shoulder move around the rib cage with some load, back to straight, back up, hold, back to straight, and up. Take a deep breath into that rib cage, back to straight, and come on down, downward facing dog pose. Put it all together, ankles into hips, in the arms, into shoulders. And come on down. All the way up to standing. Let's do a little bit of balance. Grab your block. Hold some kind of tree pose. So kickstand tree pose, lower leg all the way up. Find some kind of tree pose there today. Really root down into the floor, press the leg and the foot into the floor, and just move that block around your body some way. Maybe up over your head. And reverse around your waist or over your head. If you fall out of it, no big deal. Just find it again, release, and switch. Maybe reverse. And up and over. And release it down. Block in your hand. Tip over like you're picking up a golf ball. And stand back up. Let's do 5 times each side. All the way over, all the way up. Switch. Excellent. All right. Find a spot for your meditation, lying down, sitting down, you choose. And as you sit down or lie down, just start to pay attention to your breathing. When we're working on ourselves, becoming aware of some of the conditioning that's functioning in our body is part of what we're doing. So being able to stop and slow down and come to the silence enough that you can notice what's arising in this space. And sometimes what's arising is programming that's generational, and sometimes it's really positive, and sometimes our body is, or our emotions, our physical body, our causal body, our emotional body are playing programs that doesn't serve us anymore. But to become aware of some of those programs, we need to deeply listen. So as you show up today, find your seat or your lying down posture. Notice your breath. And begin to come into this stillness. Just notice what exists in this moment. Notice what's in your visual field. Notice any sounds that you hear. Notice the feeling of your seat or where your body's touching the floor. Shift into your awareness of your breathing and notice where the air is moving in your body. Then see if you can shift attention to what's paying attention. What's perceiving breath, gravity, sound, taste, air movement, visual field. Maybe you notice awareness beyond the border of your physical body. Can you have sense perception beyond skin? What else is playing on the screen of you?